Have you ever had that strange feeling? Like something huge is about to occur? Like you're right on the edge and the air almost feels different, like your life is holding its breath, but then it doesn't land. It doesn't transform. And you're left sitting there wondering why. It's taking so long. What's the holdup? What are you not noticing? Here's the wild part. You're not obstructed. You're not behind. And you're definitely not missing a step. You're actually standing in the exact place where everything starts to turn. The only reason it feels off is because the old version of you is still trying to make sense of a new path, one that doesn't follow the same rules anymore. The space you're in right now isn't failure. It isn't a pause. It's that quiet stretch of silence. Before the snap, life is restructuring the board. Pieces are sliding into place. Behind the scenes, but your senses haven't caught up yet. That's why it feels like nothing is moving when in reality, everything is shifting beneath the surface. The system is reloading your surroundings to match the identity you've been stepping into. But here, where it trips most people up, it doesn't look how you expected. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like being lost. It feels like floating. It feels like something's wrong. When in truth, it's the opposite. You're not where you used to be, and your mind just hasn't caught the signal yet. Your brain is trying to process a new frequency using old instructions. That's why it glitches. That's why you feel like you're between timelines, because you're in the merge zone, the part where your beliefs begin to touch the edge of a new outcome, but you haven't fully leaned into it yet. And that's okay. It's natural. But your next move isn't about action. It's not about pushing harder or doing more. It's about locking into what you've already decided is yours. Hear what nobody tells you when you're right about to break through. The simulation runs this little script. It tries to make you second guess. It whispers, maybe later, maybe not yet. Maybe you need to wait longer or find a better sign. And if you believe that voice, it keeps you circling. You get stuck in the same loop. It looks like progress, but it's just a waiting room. This simulation, it's a mirror, but it's not just any mirror. It's smart. It doesn't reflect what you want. It reflects what you've already claimed. So, if your belief is I'm trying, mirror keeps showing you more effort. If your belief is I'm waiting, the mirror delays. But if your inner state is I already have it, the mirror shifts and catches up. That's not magic. That's not wishful thinking. That's just how the system works. It bends around your assumption, not your effort, not your hustle, not how hard you're trying. The assumption, that quiet, solid knowing that says it's mine. That's the key that unlocks it. Most people never see results because they keep checking the mirror instead of living from the version of themselves who already has It They're constantly measuring the gap, constantly needing proof. And in doing so, they keep pushing it further away. So if you're feeling stuck right now, you're not actually stuck. You're in transition, and your job isn't to figure everything out. Your job is to hold the vibe of the version of you that already has, the version who already crossed the line, the one who isn't, wandering in a mole because they know it's theirs. And when you stop needing signs and stop doubting, the system finally starts catching up, not because you forced it, but because you stopped blocking it. Yes, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel tired. That's human. But don't let those emotions trick you into forgetting who you are. Don't let the external noise drown out the internal knowing. This is the part where most people give up because it looks like nothing's happening. But this is the final moment before the jump. The simulation is testing you. It's checking if you truly believe it's already yours or if you're still waiting for proof. And if you're still waiting, the mirror waits too. But if you decide not hope, not wish, decide that it's already done, the entire game changes. Reality begins to shift. People fall away. Opportunities appear. And it might not be loud. It might not be obvious. It might just feel easier, lighter, more natural. You'll start to notice small things clicking, gut feelings making sense, conversations happening at the right time, and you won't need to chase anything. You'll just know. So don't ask when will it happen. Ask how would I act if it already happened, because the answer to that question, that's your access point. That's your shortcut. That's the version of you the system responds to. And when you live in that energy, even a little, everything starts bending toward you. Here's something most people miss. This journey isn't really about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you already are, the version of you before all the noise, before the conditioning, before the doubts were planted, the version of you who didn't hesitate, who didn't wait for permission, who knew they could. That version never disappeared. It just got buried under layers of fear, logic, and survival. And what you're doing now, this entire process, it's not about adding more. It's about peeling those layers off. It's about clearing everything that told you you couldn't, so you can stand in the energy that says you already did. You were never meant to fight for your worth. You were meant to recognize it. And deep down, you've already made the decision, the outcome you're waiting for. You already picked it. Your spirit chose it long before your senses could catch up. That vision you keep seeing, it's not a fantasy. It's a memory from a future that's already real. But here's the challenge. There's a gap between knowing and Seeing that space in between the lag. It's not punishment. It's calibration. The universe is syncing your surroundings to match the energy of your new identity. And if you keep checking the mirror to see if it's working, you're reinforcing the idea that it hasn't happened yet. That's the trick. This world doesn't respond to effort. It responds to certainty. The moment you stop needing proof and start trusting your inner signal, everything begins shifting. The mirror reflects your dominant belief, not your desire, not your hustle, your belief. So if the belief is I'm almost there, the reflection is delay. If the belief is it's already mine, the reflection starts catching up. But trust doesn't come from control. It comes from letting go of the version of you that needs constant reassurance. The one who's always checking, always doubting, always waiting. That's not faith. That's fear, dressed up as preparation. So, how do you build real trust? You live like it's already true, not by pretending, not by faking confidence, but by choosing to stop negotiating with your doubts. You stop arguing with reality and you start showing up like someone who has already made it because, on some level, you have. The future you keep visualizing. That's not a daydream. That's a signal. That version of you already exists. And they are not wondering when it will happen. They are wondering when you'll finally claim it. This part of the journey doesn't require more doing. It requires more choosing. Choosing to hold the identity of the version of you who already figured it out. The one who isn't chasing. The one who isn't hopping. The one who already crossed the line, looked around and said, of course, this is mine. And no, it's not about feeling amazing all the time. You're human. You'll have doubts. You'll have off days. But the shift happens when you stop letting those moments define you. When you stop spiraling and start anchoring. When you catch yourself reaching for external signs, and instead you return to your inner knowing. That's how timelines change, not through pressure, not through perfection, through alignment, through repetition. Every time you act from the future instead of reacting from the past, you rewrite the script. You create a new baseline, and eventually, that baseline becomes your new normal. You stop chasing and you start receiving this simulation. It's responsive. It moves with you. It waits for your cue. And most people are stuck, waiting for life to give them a reason to believe. But the ones who shift the fastest are the ones who believe first and let the world catch up after. That's the whole game. You believe first, you align second, you see it third. But most people try to do it backward. They wait to see it, then think they'll feel it, then maybe they'll believe it. But that's not how the system works. The mirror doesn't create the image. It reflects it, the version of reality you're reaching for. It's already reaching for you, but it can't meet you while you're holding on to the version of yourself that doesn't feel ready. You don't need to become someone better. You just need to stop pretending you're not already enough. The shift happens, the real shift, when you stop chasing upgrades and start making choices from the energy of the version who already made it. The moment you do that, even just for a few minutes a day, you begin collapsing time. You begin bending reality, and it won't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it'll feel like peace, like ease, like nothing at all. But underneath, everything will be different. The field will start moving. People will shift. Ideas will drop in. You'll find yourself at the right place, the right time, with the right words, like it was scripted, because it was. So ask yourself honestly, what identity are you repeating? What story are you still carrying? What version of you are you showing up as? Because the moment you shift that, the moment you stop waiting and start embodying, reality response. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with alignment, with flow, with simplicity. And that's the quiet power nobody talks about. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true. Let's be honest. The real work isn't just about thinking better thoughts or saying the right affirmations. It's deeper. It's about shifting the foundation those thoughts are built on. Because if your subconscious is still running the program that says, I'm not ready, or I need to do more first, no amount of surface level positivity can override that signal. The system responds to your dominant frequency, and your subconscious is what holds that frequency steady. You might be doing everything right on the outside. You might be visualizing, journaling, staying grateful. But if you still feel like you're waiting for something to happen, then that waiting becomes the energy you're reinforcing. The system mirrors that back as more waiting, more delays, more near misses. Not because you're wrong, but because you're sending two conflicting signals. One says, I'm ready, and the other says, not yet. That's the inner split, and that's what keeps most people stuck. They want the outcome, but they're still vibrating with the identity that doesn't fully believe it yet. And when you're in that state, your energy is fragmented. You're not fully locked into one timeline. You're toggling between two, the one where it's already yours and the one where you're still trying to earn it. So how do you shift that? You stop trying to earn it. You stop proving. You stop auditioning for the version of reality you were always meant to live in. The breakthrough happens when you realize there's nothing left to convince. You're not here to become worthy. You're here to accept that you already are. And that acceptance creates coherence. That's what tells the system you're ready to receive. Not because you did enough, but because you finally aligned. This is where you start to feel the difference between force and flow, between chasing and allowing, between hopping something will happen and knowing that it's already set in motion. Because the truth is the shift has already occurred. The version of you who lives in the life you want, they already exist. And every time you align with that version in thought, in action, in energy, you close the distance. You shrink the gap. You collapse the timeline. It's not about hustle. It's about identity. The internal version of you has to match the external experience. You're calling in. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are a match for. So if you still feel like the results are somewhere out there, it's time to check where your identity is still stuck in the old frequency. Are you showing up as the version who's still waiting for something to happen? Or are you acting, speaking, deciding like it's already done? Because the moment you stop checking the outside world for validation, the moment you stop needing the proof, you start becoming the proof, you become the evidence. And that's when reality shifts in ways you didn't even plan for. It's wild, really. You'll start to notice how effortlessly things begin to align. Not because you force them, but because you finally stop doubting. The mental noise gets quieter. The resistance softens. And life just feels lighter. Because it's not trying to get your attention anymore. It's flowing with your new direction. Here's the truth. Most people won't say out loud, your circumstances are neutral. They're not here to punish or delay you. They're simply reflecting back the level of identity you've been living in. And if you want to see something different, you don't fight the mirror. You change the image. You change the signal. But don't confuse change with perfection. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to feel powerful every single day. What you do need is consistency. A choice repeated often enough that overrides the doubt and replaces it with alignment. That's what rewires the signal. That's what creates the shift. And here's the best part. You don't need to figure out the whole path. You just need to act from the assumption that the path is already unfolding. When you take a step from that belief, the system responds. The next clue drops in. The next door opens. The next version of you becomes just a little more obvious, a little more natural, a little more solid. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It might just feel like calm, like clarity, like finally being able to breathe. Because alignment doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it just feels like finally stopping the chase. So let go of the timeline. Let go of the how. Let go of the story that says you have to suffer first or prove yourself or earn your way into alignment. You don't. You just need to decide fully, cleanly, repeatedly. Because every time you hold the energy of the end result, even for a moment, you're pulling that timeline closer. You're telling the system, this is my frequency now. And the system has no choice but to match it. That's not ego. That's not fantasy. That's resonance. And when you live from that energy consistently enough, reality has no choice but to rearrange itself to meet you, because you stopped asking if you were worthy of a shift and you started embodying the truth that you already are. This is the part where it all comes together. The realization that you're not actually building the future from scratch. You're aligning with the one you already chose. You're not fixing your life. You're remembering the version of it that always felt right. The one that already fits, the one where you don't have to fight to be seen or try to be enough. And if you've made it this far, that version of you is already leading quietly, steadily in the background. They've been calling the shots. Every time you felt that pull, that intuitive nudge, that inner knowing, that was them. Not a fantasy, not wishful thinking, just the future version of you reaching back through time to guide you home. So what now? Now, you stop hesitating. You stop asking if you're ready. You stop negotiating with the old story because you don't need more signs. You don't need another push. You need to trust what you already know. You're not confused. You're just used to doubting your clarity. You're not behind. You're just comparing your timing to someone else's highlight reel. And you're not stuck. You're standing at the edge of a version of reality that looks nothing like the one you came from. That's why it feels unfamiliar. That's why it feels uncertain. But unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. It just means new. This is the threshold, the part most people retreat from, the moment right before the shift becomes visible, when it's tempting to step back into comfort because the next level feels too quiet, too unknown, too still. But if you wait to feel ready, you'll never move, because readiness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. And once you decide fully without wobble, life gets louder in the best way. The mirror shifts. The feedback loop recalibrates. And what once felt far away becomes obvious.